So thanks again, everyone, for joining today's webinar. My name is Marley Long, and I'm here from CardioLog Analytics. Today's session is on maximizing your employee engagement in SharePoint and Office 365. And I've also got Sarah here from EasySharePoint joining me for today's session. So thanks so much, Sarah, for joining.
Hello, everybody.
So just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. If you want to share this with a colleague in the next few days, we'll go ahead and send an email to everyone who signed up with the recording as well. You can also connect to us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @CardioLog, as well as EasySharePoint's Twitter handle is @EasySharePoint. And if you have any questions, we'll try to leave some time towards the end for any kind of questions, but we will also be answering any questions that you may have via email as well, so feel free. We'll give you our contact information at the end of the session as well if you have any questions that you'd like to send to us. And again, this webinar is being recorded, so if you have to drop off early or something, we will send you the full recording. So in regards to the agenda for today's webinar, we'll start out by handing it off to Sarah, who will give you a short introduction about what they specialize in at EasySharePoint. Then she'll dive into how to put your internet problems and resolutions central to your ROI thinking. Then I'll lead you on a crash course in some success measurements, so how to make your results feed into the next part of your cycle. And finally, how powerful engagement tools can actually help you turn your analytics insights into action for improved processes and an increased SharePoint usage and satisfaction. So at this point, I'm going to give you control, Sarah.
Great. Share my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that now. Molly, can you see my screen just to check that you can see it? Perfect. Okay, so just a little introduction to EasySharePoint and our product EasyShare. So we're an app that sits inside Office 365. We are fully hybrid, so it does work on SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint 2016. So we're not restricted to the online platform. It enables you to rapidly deploy an intranet within SharePoint. So it pulls in various other parts of Office 365 like Yammer, Skype for Business, Video, Delve. It's got 75 different web parts, site templates, and what it does is it really accelerates that the build process of a new intranet. So you can have a good, clear idea of what pages and page layouts that you need for your organization, and you can get that up and running really quickly. It's fully responsive across devices, so tablet, mobile, desktop, Macs, it all works. Okay. So we're one of the most mature products on the Intranet in a Box marketplace. As I said, the current version's on online 2013 and 2016. We have 4 previous versions, so we've been around for a long time. So we've seen a lot of different intranet changes, and we've also seen what stays the same within the intranet space. Okay, we have over 60 rollouts in the UK and North America. So here's just a sample of our client list. Lots of variety in our client list, so financial, medical, production people, so yeah, lots of small clients, big clients. We work with everybody. We all have similar and unique challenges. Okay, we are 100% aligned to SharePoint. We absolutely love SharePoint here at EasySharePoint. It's in our name, it's in the core of our business. We love working with the other parts of Office 365 and how you can draw that into your SharePoint intranet to make a truly digital workspace. So today what I'm going to talk about is how you can take a problem that you have within your business and you can design a solution to that using your intranet. So here are a selection of different problems, and I'm just going to pick that central one, which is the need ways to find the right person. But what I'm going to talk about would apply to each of those different problems. So if you need a new communication channel, you're going to go through the same questions, the same route in order to design what you need to do. So you can take any of these problems and you can go through this process that I'm going to talk about. So if we're looking at how we find the right person, so in an increasingly globalized economy, you might be working with people who are scattered across the country or across the globe. You might be working with a mixture of home workers, people who work in different offices, people who work in a mobile way, and so you're not necessarily going to know all of the people in your organization. So this is how you can really start to tap in as an organization to information about people. So it's not just about who you know, it's who you can find out about. So the first thing to look at is how do you do this process at the moment? And remember, we can apply that to those different problems as well. So, so in this case, we might look at a paper directory or an online directory. We might use Exchange or Outlook to find information about people. But what about if you don't know the name of the person or the department that they work in, you don't know their line manager, how are you going to find someone that you don't really know much about? And the answer is to have a really good quality faceted search that will be able to search through different things in their profile. So the next step in the process is to brainstorm your ideal, and it's always helpful to kind of look at like the art of the possible. So what could you put in? What would be your absolute ideal, and how could we pull through all of that information? So you won't necessarily be able to reach your ideals. Some of these things are going to end up being your stretch goals. There might be a phase 2 or a phase 3 thing, because you might come up against a barrier that stops you from being able to do that. So thinking about what will be valuable to your organization, but also within the context of cultural fit for your organization. So it might be that some of this information is available, some of it might not be culturally sensitive to put in. So if you're working with colleagues across the globe, some colleagues might feel uncomfortable with knowing information like your birthday and your spouse's name and your kid's name and things like that. So it might be that you don't include that sort of information. Okay, so here's my perfect match. Okay, excuse me. So how do we make it work? So the first thing to look at is your data quality. Where have you got, out of those things that we're looking to draw in, where have we got missing or out of date information? And this is where you might employ some analytics to be able to draw in this information. And I know that this is something that Marley might touch on in her presentation later on. So the next thing is the data location and the visibility. So where is this stuff? So where are things like profile photographs, details about people's locations, their telephone numbers? Where's all that information stored? And can we surface it? Can we bring it into our intranet space? Is some of this information in people's PDP, their development documents? Is it just in people's heads? If it is in different sources, how do we get it pulled into the intranet space? And so we might need to design spaces within the intranet profile to allow people to pull in this information that might be in these different disparate systems. The next question is who's going to update it? So in this case we're talking about an individual and their information. So can they update it themselves? How do they drive to get information changed. So and so sometimes that's part of your launch communication to say, okay, well, you can't update your own profile photograph, but if you send an email to Joe in HR, they can get your profile photograph updated. So and we know that like profile photographs are really important to people because that's your public face across the organisation. And sometimes an organisation might say, yeah, it's absolutely fine, we're happy for people to upload their own photographs, and some more conservative organisations might be saying, oh no, definitely not, we can't let people do that themselves, we'll end up with pictures of Mickey Mouse all over the intranet, that we're not going to do that. So whatever's going to be the cultural fit for your organisation will help you to drive what people are allowed and not allowed to do within the system, and when they're not allowed to do something themselves, how do they get that change? If it's wrong, how do they get it changed? So what drives people to fill in this information? So we've already talked about how having this information is a real data store within your organisation. It's really valuable knowledge about people and their skills around the organisation. How do you get the people on the ground to actually do that? Some of it might be incentives. Here at EasySharePoint we've had organisations run competitions within teams to say, okay, well, the first team to get all 10 people filled in their profile, all their profile fields filled in, then those people will get a gift voucher or a team pizza or something like that. It might be like a top-down thing, that it's a line management thing, that you're encouraging line managers to get people to devote 20 minutes of the first week to get this done. It might be something that you can get included in people's review targets. So all of those things, they're not about the actual software, they're about like what's the underlying data and what about the people and how they interact with that data. So,
Sarah, if you don't mind me mentioning, just on that last point that you had, I think that's a really powerful point that you mentioned, especially you know, in relation to gamification, and we're seeing more and more in organizations using gamification methodology to increase their engagement, and actually that's something that, you know, we're working on as well, creating to kind of sync and get this gamification with the analytics, creating leaderboards to actually integrate into the SharePoint sites and to show, you know, for example, maybe who's the most active or who's, you know, completed the most information as well.
Yeah, so it's just such a really valuable way of drawing people into wanting to do the task that you want them to do, because of course everybody's got their day jobs, and so people might kind of play lip service and say, oh yeah, I understand it's valuable for me to update it, but they're not going to find the time to do it. But you introduce that element of gamification and people have got an incentive to do it. Okay, so so we always recommend that when you are introducing a new feature, whether it's that you're launching a whole new intranet or just a new thing, that you set your targets, aim high. I always included a picture of Seb Coe here because at age 12, Seb Coe wrote in his training diary that he wanted to win an Olympic gold medal. And he said everything he did, every training session for like the next 10 years was around getting himself to that point. So it's not a bad thing to have really high and ambitious goals, and the success metrics will help you to get to your goals. So as long as you make sure that they're measurable, and a lot of the things that Marley's going to talk about later will show you how you can measure things, how you can pick something that you can tangibly measure. And it's important to say that even if you don't make your target, those failures can really show you the road to success. So if you set your target as we want 80% of people to have filled in their profile by the end of week one, at the end of the week one, only 20% of people, that shows you that somehow you got your messaging wrong, somehow you did it wrong, and how you can change it. So if you're doing your analytics on that, you can work out where you went wrong and how you can move forward on that. Okay, so I'm going to dive into a little demo now. So this is our new people directory in EasySharePoint. It's got so I can use the search feature at the top, so I can refine the search according to the letter of their first name or their surname, and I've got various refiners down the right-hand side that allow me to search for different people. So I can look for different things there. So, and this is something that our customers were really searching for, that they've felt that SharePoint doesn't do this out of the box. Office 365 is still a little bit behind the curve in the kind of features that people would like to be able to see here. Okay, so so I'm going to talk a little bit now about like the routes into finding person. So you might use search, you might have links on your home page or on other pages, either that link to specific people or that link to your people directory or your people search. So you might include links here to be able to search specifically for people, and I'll just show you here what one of those refined people search looks for. So you might, instead of searching for someone's name, remember we talked about it before that that you might not know the name of the person that you're looking for, you might just know what they're good at. Okay, so you're searching for particular skills, so maybe you need someone who can use a specific software program because the person in your team who normally helps you out with that thing is off on leave or they're on sick, and you need help immediately to say, okay, I need someone who has in-depth knowledge of this particular software program to be able to help me to do this task. And that's not necessarily something that your IT help desk would be able to do because it's maybe something quite specific. So you're looking for someone maybe who works in a different office, who's an SAP specialist or something like that. Okay, so you can really use these faceted searches to find people either in the main search or by going back into your people search and being able to use those skills and interest searches over there. So I can search around departments, like that. And once I've returned a list of people, I can see some information about them. So I can see like where they work, which department, what their job title is, things like that. So if I just search back for myself here, I can then click through, and this in our feature here, so the SharePoint search that I showed you before, that's kind of a bit more classic. But I might be able to find in what these people are good at, so different projects that they're working on, and sort of their skills and interests and their education. So you can see how you can get an awful lot of data around a person into your intranet space. So not just names and phone numbers or job titles, lots of other information that would be useful to people. So that's that. And then finally, that you might use things like your landing pages for your different departments to say a bit of information about people. So it's another route into finding the right person, is to use things like specific web parts that are going to pull through information about people. And you can see that like I've got links to email here, I've got telephone numbers. You can't see here that there are the Skype presence indicators. So this bar across Marika's profile picture should have a green or a red. I'm logged in on our boardroom computer here, so it's not showing me all of my Skype stuff today. Okay, so let's get back to my presentation. Okay, and so once you've decided on what you're doing, you've designed what the pages are going to look like, you've thought about the routes through to those different pages within your intranet space, how do you get this change to happen within your organization? And that launch planning that we talked about before, so what messages you need to do, what materials you need to provide to people to help. So when you're thinking about profile stuff in particular, you might be talking to people about what they need to fill in, what's an ideal profile, gives them samples of what a good profile looks like to help them along that journey. Remember that there might be some things that they can and can't do themselves, so that messaging and the user materials will make it explicit. Okay, well you can't update your own profile, but you can email Joe in HR and he can update your profile picture for you. This is where analytics is going to be really important to use. So being able to see who's going to those pages that we've just looked at, what's happening on those pages, that people are struggling, and Molly's going to show you through some of those things later on. And we can think about how you can get support for people, either a formal support, a helpline, things like that, or whether it's team members. And Molly can show you some really powerful things later on about how you can see which team members are using these features, and that helps you to say, okay, well, Joe in HR, 7 people in your team haven't filled in their profiles, but we can see that you have, and you are using this thing. You can help us to get that message to those team members who aren't seeing the benefit of it. And you might find that there's a case study that Joe has a way of doing something, that he's doing something in his day-to-day job, that he's using these pages that we've produced, and that can really help us to make a really powerful message. So this is all about getting people engaged, the incentives, the reminders, and a lot of the things that Marley's going to show you later on is how we can really target that and get a lot more knowledge about what's happening on those pages to be able to target that information into people. Okay, so once you've done all of that, do a review. Think about what you've done, how you've done it, consider the barriers, how you're going to change people's working patterns. Remember we talked about the success metrics and the having those high targets. So maybe if you didn't hit your target, this is the point where you might say, okay, this is, I might go back and either change the target, reduce it, or look at how we can bring the organisation up to the target. So you're saying, was it the wrong target, or did we just not go to the target in the right way? And look at the things that we've done here. They're agnostic to the problem that you're trying to solve. So we could go back to those other problems that we looked at the beginning. So whether you're trying to have a new communication channel, or whether you're trying to solve like something that's done in quite an offline way at the moment, that you're trying to stream that into an online process. So all of those things, the targets, the route, the barriers, they're all applicable depending on no matter what your problem is. Okay, so I'm going to hand back to Marley now. Marley, I don't know, can you just grab control? Do I need to?
Sure.
Hand back to you, and I'm going to mute myself for now, but I might pop in a couple of comments as Molly goes through her presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. That was a really interesting presentation. Lots of wonderful ideas about how you can, really increase engagement in some, creative ways. And now I'll dive into a little bit about what we do here at CardioLog Analytics. So just a brief introduction. We've been around now for about 12 years, since 2005, and over the past 12 years we've been focused on analytics design for SharePoint, and now of course Office 365. And our flagship solution is CardioLog Analytics. It's built specifically for internal platforms, including all versions of SharePoint from 2007 to 2016, as well as online. We also recently released our new engagement tool called CardioLog Engage, which I will be showing you guys today. And we also track third-party tools like Yammer and Citrion. And our solution is available as both an on-prem as well as a SaaS-based version on Power BI, which is also what we will be seeing a little bit of today as well. So our goal is to help our customers constantly improve SharePoint based on how it's being used. So there's 3 main pillars that we talk to our customers about when we talk about improving SharePoint. So the first pillar is to monitor, so that's tracking the usage within SharePoint. The second pillar is actually engaging the users, asking them what their needs are, what their pain points are, and what's not working for them. And then finally, the most important pillar is to enhance. So we want to make sure that we're constantly improving SharePoint based on these pillars, and they all kind of build off of each other. And the idea is to have actionable metrics, which will allow us to constantly make SharePoint better for the users. I also wanted to just touch on this question. So why SharePoint Analytics at all? So Sarah really was able to talk a lot about the importance and the value of analytics in improving your portal and really making those important decisions. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some common scenarios. Maybe they may resonate with you as well. Oftentimes, we have stakeholders or administrators from organizations approaching us, and they want to know very specific facts. So they want to know how can I determine my adoption levels at each step of a migration process, or can we identify which content is not being accessed, as well as, you know, what is the most popular search terms, or where are my users coming from, what kind of content are they most interested in viewing. And then we can actually recommend very tailored metrics and analytics reports to answer these important business questions. Because at the end of the day, without having these vital pieces of information, organizations aren't making informed business decisions based on intelligent data that they need. So I'm going to shift now just to show you a little bit more, and we'll jump a little bit more in depth into the analytics. So for our purposes today, I wanted to start out with one of our usage overview reports. And this is a really great report to show you an overview of your portal content, adoption, and search. But it also lets you drill down and slice and dice your data if you'd like to investigate more into a specific section of your portal. So the first thing that you can see here over on this left-hand side is your portal hierarchy or your tree structure. In this example here, we're tracking a SharePoint Online tenant, as well as we can track a SharePoint 2013 tenant at the, or farm, at the same time. You can also track Yammer. You can track as many tenants or farms as you would like, and this can be really helpful during a migration process. If you'd like to track usage across, you know, 2 different farms or tenants and really understand what your usage levels look like or how they've changed over time. So with this SharePoint Online tenant, I have all of these different sites, like for example this community site here. I also have my team site. We also have our news. And the idea is that I can really select any object, team site, or whatever I want. And so, for example, if we'd like to filter our data only for the Interlock team site, that this information is dynamic, and you can really filter by a specific area within SharePoint. So again, you can see that all this information that you see here on your content only reflects your Interlock team site. So as I mentioned, you can see here this content tab here, and this is the first category that we're going to focus on when we're talking about SharePoint. So here you can see you have all of these different widgets, and what I can do is I can actually open up these widgets to show you a little bit more detail. So here I can open this chart here, and I can see all of the most popular items in SharePoint. And here we can really focus on the actions that I'd like to take. So for example, once you know what are the most popular items, as you can see here at the top, then you can actually take action. So you may want to link that piece of content to your SharePoint homepage or to your team site, for example. So for example, we can take here, let me just grab my highlighter, this general procedures document. So we can see here that this document is actually very useful for our users. And so instead of people wasting time searching for this document in the portal, we can quickly make a link or a button on the home page and really improve that user experience, because we already know that that's what's most popular among the users. Now let's flip that around. Sorry, I have a slight internet lag. Okay. So now you can see all of the content that we're showing here is inactive content. So you can see here it has 0 page views. And this is the content that's not being used. So this can include sites, document, pages, and more. So this is, for our example here, this is all of your content in your portal. Of course, you can actually filter by content type to show you only content for, your documents or your sites or so forth. And I can actually show you how to do that after after I exit out of this widget. But for here, we can actually take action on all of this inactive content. And this is really important, understanding what's not being used. So what's the value here? We can simply delete this content. We can update them if they are important to the organization and maybe they're outdated, or see if they're important and they're updated already. Let's try to leverage this content. Let's make it more visible and make sure it can be accessed by our users. So we can send out campaigns through email linking to this content. We can also, again, create links on the home page and make sure that this content isn't orphaned within the SharePoint portal. Besides that, we can see a lot of other information here. So for example, we can see the size of the content, and we can also see the owner of the content. And this is also really important when doing any kind of portal cleanup and really trying to manage this portal sprawl that I think we hear about a lot. So what we can do is we can actually see for example, we have all of these content pieces that have 0 page views, but for example, they are actually very large. So all of these pieces that are very large we can see here, and then we can actually see who the owner is. So for example, we can contact Joe, the owner of this piece of content, and say, hey Joe, you have 60 days to either update this content or remove this content, otherwise it will be removed. So this is a great way, also to take action on all of this inactive content that you have and really try to either make use of it or remove it. And again, as I mentioned before, you can also filter all your content by content type. So for example, if you'd like to only see usage data for your documents, you can simply select document here. And again, all of this content here, you can open up this table again and see that it's only showing you all of your documents. And you can filter for list items, any kind of documents that you may have within the portal. So for example, also if I'm a farm or a tenant admin and I want to just see, only my sites, I can simply click sites as well, and then I can only see information for that. So that's really a page views table all in one widget. There's really a lot that you can do with it. You can also see your trend over time.
I mean, this is really exciting to be able to kind of launch a new feature or a new, like you might launch a set of pages within a section and be able to see really quickly, like, are people actually using it? So it's
right.
Yeah.
So again, as I mentioned, you can also see your trends over time. So for example, if you want to see that over time there is an increase in usage, and you can get a real overview sense that over time people are contributing content to your portal and that your adoption and productivity levels are increasing. And in terms of understanding your adoption and your content, this is just a basic overview, usage overview report. We do have many other reports, pre-templated reports, as well as you can create your own reports to really go much more in depth. But for our purposes today, I wanted to show you this usage overview report because I think it's a nice report that lets you see a lot of different pieces of the SharePoint puzzle, and also allows you to drill down, but still gives you that overview that you need. So let's move on to this adoption piece that I've added here to the report. And so here we have some nice adoption metrics, and Sarah mentioned previously that I could actually show you, the usage levels within groups and also with individual users. So that's something that you can actually see here. So we can see our user attributes as well as our departments and your user groups. So if you hover over, you can see all of your user groups here. So for example, if I hover over this quality assurance group, we can see here that this number 77 means that this group has the most active users. So in this case, the quality assurance department, there are 77 users versus these lower departments, for example, like purchasing, has only 56 active users. And this is where we can take action. So we know that many people, we can actually come back here and we can try to help these lagging departments with more training because they're actually using SharePoint less than these top groups. And another piece of insight that we can see from this report is that I found out that this purchasing group is not very active, but there actually may be some active users within the purchasing group who are very active and some who are not. So I can actually drill down into my purchasing group. And I think, Sarah, you mentioned this previously about finding those champions in the organization. So this is a great way to actually use the data to let you find out who these champions are. So for example, you can see your most active users here at the top. So someone like our purchasing administrator, Allison, anyone, Andy Raynell, for example. But if we scroll much more towards the bottom, we can see all of our inactive users within this group. So one, this is great for really finding those people who need more training and allocating training to those who really need it, and making those conscious decisions that will be better for budget allocation as well, because we all know that training can be very expensive. But as well, finding those champions and really seeing how we can really help get those champions to help push those lagger users to be more active in SharePoint. So that's just another place where we can see value and really see the people who don't use SharePoint very often as well as our active users. And I'm going to drill back up now so I can really show you the most interesting part of this, and this is really my favorite part, and this is the connection. And this is really thanks to Power BI. So if you were to ask what are people doing within the finance group, I can actually click on my finance group here. Actually, I'm going to add my search element to this report as well. So now I've added our third piece, which is search. And now I can actually, again, click on my finance group. And I can see that all of this information is dynamic and only reflects the finance group now. So now I can see all of content that the finance group is interacting with. I can see the areas of the portal where the finance group is most active, so I can actually drill down here into my SharePoint Online portal and see which parts of the portal that there is the most activity from the finance group. I can also see what the finance group is searching for, which is really powerful because then you can actually, then go to this content piece over here and actually provide information for the finance group based upon all of these pieces of the puzzle. And again, I can actually do, take this logic and do the same thing, for example, with our users. So instead of filtering for the finance group, I can actually drill down. So I can drill down within the finance group, and now I can actually select a specific user. So for example, let's click on Jean. And now I can actually see, again, all of the information that an individual user has interacted with, where they're most active within the portal, what they're specifically searching for, and more. So it really helps you to really drill down even into the nitty-gritty pieces of the SharePoint portal to really help you take action and really understand what your users are doing and what they're searching for, as well as what your groups, how active your groups are. So I mentioned that I added this third piece of the puzzle here, which is search. So here you can see all of our top search phrases here. So you can see, again, what are the most searched for phrases within the portal, and you can actually see, okay, so they're searching for benefits the most. So maybe I should provide some more information for our users on benefits. You can also see your successful versus failed searches, and you can filter for that as well. So you can really try to understand where your users are getting stuck in the portal, what these failed searches look like, and you can decide maybe you need to update your search schemas and really kind of try to tweak your search mechanism in the portal to better serve your users as well. So that's just a little bit about analytics. I'm going to navigate now to our engagement tool, which I think is really exciting. I'm really excited to show you guys this new capability. And I really want to show you how easy it is to target your users and take these insights that you've seen and put them into action and really engage with your users. So everything we've seen so far in this session was really focused on understanding how the portal is being used and then what we can do to improve it. And our goal is what we like to say is to provide actionable metrics. So we really work to create reports that will give you insights and information that you can use in order to take action and make improvements. And that action might be providing training to inactive users, or creating groups for your top contributors to get feedback from them, or like I mentioned, getting rid of unused content or optimizing your search. But with CardioLog Engage, we really want to take this one step further. So beyond analytics, we want to provide a way for you to take some kind of action really based on those analytics. So I mentioned all of these actions that you can take, but this is an actual way that you can actually really do it and automate all of these processes. So CardioLog Engage is based on campaigns that you can run in your portal to further engage your end users. So everything here is based on information that has been captured by CardioLog SAS. So we have a lot of information about users, like which department they're coming from, which office, their usage habits, what time they usually log into the portal, or what sites they usually visit, how much time they even spend on a page, or what they're doing at every moment that they spend in the portal. And this is really powerful information that we can use to really send a message to the right user at the right time. So here you can see here we've actually made some pre-made campaigns. So you can use this for administrative actions. So all of these examples here, if you want to tell people about a new feature and then redirect them to that new feature. You can also inform them that a site was moved and then redirect them to the new site. You can also use this for general messages and greetings. So this can be a really useful tool if one of your organization's goals is to reduce the number of email interactions. So here you can send a message to your users within SharePoint instead of via email. And you can use this to send even a birthday greeting if users have that information in their profile, just like Sarah mentioned about filling in all this information. And you can actually push users to fill this information in as well. So you can send general announcements, event invites, and so on. It can also be really great to get feedback from your users. So we have a lot of information about search, for example, and we can supplement that by getting first-hand feedback from the actual user. So if we ask them a question right after they performed an action, then we can get really valuable feedback about their experience, which they might not remember if we ask them the same question during their next visit. So if we use search for an example, we can ask a user right after they clicked on a search result, was this search result useful? Or if the user is spending a lot of time viewing the search results page, we can simply ask them what they're looking for. We can ask them the same question if we see that the user is performing a few consecutive searches as well, without clicking on any search results. So this really enables us to get timely feedback from our users that we can then use in order to improve the experience and really improve the overall portal. So let's look at a few examples of how we can actually do this. So here we're actually building a campaign. So first, let's select what our campaign goal is. So again, we can ask people what they were looking for. And now we can select the audience of who the campaign will target. So we can target everyone, for example, and again, you can see how we integrate with the analytics, so the number pops up of how many users that you actually have that you will be targeting. You can also select specific groups, so whether that's SharePoint groups or a user segment that you've created, like a department or an office, country, and so on. We can also base our selection on user behavior. So this can be anything if you want, for example, if you want to target your new users, so your newbies who are logging into the portal or visiting a specific site or page for the first time. You can also target your inactive users who haven't visited the portal or a specific site in a while. So you can send them an email to ask for their feedback and find out what their challenges are, or send them a newsletter with links to some news articles to try to get them more engaged. And you can also target your engaged users. So these are your champions, users who have already viewed a specific page, specific campaign, or maybe responded to a previous campaign. So next you can select the channel. In in-app messages, this can be super useful. So here you can actually display it, whether it's a pop-up, a full screen, a header, or a footer. So we have a lot of different options for that. And this is a really great way to display information, but also make it unobtrusive to the user. So really not to interfere with their experience, but to actually display information and push them to complete specific tasks. Then we can move on to our text and design. So for example, you can, write however you want to write. So did you find what you were looking for? You can select whether you'd like this message to be a pop-up so that the user must interact or close the message. You can select the frequency, so showing the message once per user or once per session. You have a lot of different ways that you can actually customize the message, as well as creating a link or a button, rating through from 1 to 10. So for example, if you're launching a new feature, it's a really great way to get feedback in that way, a thumbs up or down, as well as any kind of open questions or multiple choice. So those are really great way to get really dynamic information, so data that that's more personable. So the analytics can give you data, but getting this user feedback really kind of helps you paint a full picture of what the user experience looks like. And again, you can select your color scheme, all of these fun things. And then you have your trigger. So you can either schedule this to be shown to a user at a specific time, whether it's 8 a.m. your time, for example, or the user's time, no matter where they're located. You can also trigger this based on user behavior. So for example, when they viewed a specific page for a specific amount of time. So here you can select here when they viewed a page, any kind of page. So let's select HR site for more than, or actually a more appropriate example would be a search results page. So if you saw a user was viewing a search results page for more than, let's say, 60 seconds, then we can probably infer that they didn't find the information that they're looking for, and then we can actually launch this message to get the right information we need to make these tweaks to the portal. And you can also launch the campaign through smart timing as well as a web request. And now we can go ahead and launch this campaign. And here you can actually see a little bit of insights on your campaign. So you can see your total audience. You can see how many users your campaign reached. how many engaged with the campaign, as well as how many completions. So that's just a few examples that I showed here, but there's really a lot that you can do. And the idea is to use this to really further engage your users based on the information that's captured by analytics. And I think, you know, what Sarah showed, and also with this engagement methodology, I think, you know, making SharePoint the best that it can be is really a combination of things. It's a combination of technology. It's a combination of you know, getting the right people involved, and also you know, understanding what your KPIs are and what your success metrics are. And when you really complete all of those pieces of the puzzle, then I think, you know, you're really on track for achieving success. So I'm going to go back to my presentation now. And I think we're running a little bit short on time. If anyone has any questions, feel free to send them into the chat box, and we will try to get to them through email. So we'll email you any questions you have. We'll definitely get back to you. And I want to say thanks so much, you know, to everyone who's joined and stayed with us. I hope it was an interesting presentation for you. And thanks so much, Sarah, as well, for such an interesting presentation from EasySharePoint.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, everybody.
And you can also visit our website, so it's www.intlock.com. We have a free trial for both on-prem and our SaaS solution, as well as Engage. You can also join our readers at blog.intlock.com, and you can also visit EasySharePoint.com, check out their case studies. I know they have a number of wonderful case studies, as well as a free demonstration. And you can contact them at hello@EasySharePoint.com as well. And again, if you have any questions, maybe you think of them later, you can send them to us. We'll always be happy to have a discussion about any kind of challenges you have and any ways that we can help. So thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining, and have a great day.